We're currently going through a very interesting transition in the world, as so many of our technologies are affecting the way we live, the way we work, the way we play, and so we don't really have a good idea of when we'll reach the end of this transition. And lots of industries are on the downside of the bell curve, and as they go through this bell curve, a new bell curve is coming up with new industries that are getting started. Now, in the middle of all of that is I've created this term called maximum Freud, which is kind of a funny term because Sigmund Freud was a psychologist, and I refer to this as the time that most of the people have to spend their time on the Freudian couch trying to figure out what's going on, because it's very confusing to the people that are in the middle of these transitions. One prediction I made in 2012 was that by 2030, over 2 billion jobs are going to disappear. We all have a tool in our garage called a level that we use to hang pictures straight on the wall, and we use it to do carpentry work. But once we download a level app on our smartphone, then suddenly we no longer have to buy that product. That means we never have to buy, we don't have to have as many people making the aluminum frames, the glass bulbs. So every time we download a mobile app, we eliminate a little piece of a job. When we download billions and billions of mobile apps, we're eliminating lots of jobs. Now, what this is doing is this is forcing us to rethink how we work in society and how the labor laws work. Now, on one hand, we're eliminating lots of jobs. Now, what's really going on here, though, is this is what I refer to as the level problem. But on the other hand, we're freeing up lots of human capital. And so it's kind of ironic that a lot of people are thinking that we're going to run out of work to do in the world, but that's pretty ludicrous. If you look around, we're not running out of work to do in the world. We have lots of work to do. Now, there are the different laws of exponential capabilities that I created that explain what's really going on here. And basically, with exponential capabilities, it means that once we're able to automate things, it gives us additional time to do things. So once things are easier to do, we'll just do more of it. And it also causes us to reset our expectations, and it causes us then to focus on bigger projects in the future, because we will have 10 to 20 times more capabilities 10 to 20 years from now. Now, the implications for CEOs is that you will be able to do more work with less people. In the future, we're going to be able to reduce a lot of businesses down to just a few key individuals. I see lots of CEOs working with artificial intelligence systems to help guide them on making good decisions on how to manage their businesses.
Most CEOs, of course, don't do the entire job of running the company. They delegate elements of running the company to their vice presidents and their middle management, and that's going to continue to be the case. But some of those roles will be helped by the AI. I mean, you'll have AI that might analyze the data coming up inside your company so that you can look at it in real time. You don't have to tell a vice president, would you please analyze and sum up what this is doing or what's going on inside the business. You'll see dashboards going on inside their company and see it in real time without needing to ask people to prepare it for them. The CEO, if they're good, will actually get much closer to what's really going on in their business rather than being distanced from it by the layers of management which exist in medium and large organizations.
Yeah, I think they absolutely. From the way I look at it, every CEO has to be a technology expert on some level. There's virtually no business anymore that isn't a technology business. They all have technology in the background. The CEO of the future is going to have to be skilled in lots of different areas. They're going to have to understand the concept of risk and where it's best, what risks are the best ones to take on and which ones are the best ones to avoid. The CEOs will also have to understand, with all the technology, where the key breaking points are, what things can go wrong. Because as we add more and more technology to our lives, more things can kind of go haywire. All right. In my mind, the most disruptive technology in all history will be driverless technologies. Driverless technologies are going to be more disruptive than the invention of the wheel, the invention of the car itself, the invention of the smartphone, because they will affect more people in a more dramatic manner in a shorter period of time than anything in all history. Once we're able to summon a vehicle, it comes and picks us up, takes us to where we want to go, and from there it'll pick somebody else up and take them to where they want to go. We transition from a just-in-case mindset, I have a car in my garage just in case I need to go somewhere, to a just-in-time mindset. I can summon a vehicle at any time that I need it. And right in the middle of all that is such a dramatic shift in society that once we start applying the math to it, one autonomous vehicle will replace 30 other vehicles. One out of every $6 in the healthcare world starts disappearing because we won't have any car accidents anymore. All of these things start to add up. The way we design airports, the way we design cities and shopping centers, and all of these things start to change as driverless technology catches on, and it's going to catch on in a very big way here.
Thinking of vehicles in a different way, thinking of vehicles as being an extension of people's lifestyles and coming up with the technologies that we use in our everyday lives and mixing those with the technologies we need for mobility in the future. In FF91 and our future products, we believe autonomous driving is very important. The autonomous driving and the artificial intelligence we're building into the vehicles ready for the future. More cars over time are going to become more driven by themselves rather than relying on the driver being able to control the vehicle. Use of vehicles by letting them be able to turn up when people need them, when they want them. You're going to be able to have the car that you want when you want it, and that's going to change the whole way people use cars in the future where they access mobility, and that's what we feel is important. So we're really driving artificial intelligence and self-driving to get to the point where we're ready when the laws and when the customer acceptance is there, that we can deliver products that people want for the future.
So what kind of challenges will the CEOs be dealing with? So the CEOs are going to be facing lots of interesting challenges in the future. Part of them come with being blindsided by the future. I mean, there's new technology that's coming out that you just didn't know about. And with the laws of scalability, if we think about how things are scaling up so much quicker than ever in the past. So as an example, it took around 200 years to get the first billion bicycles in the world. It took 120 years to get the first billion cars. For McDonald's, it took 23 years to sell the first billion hamburgers. And then Uber, it took them just 5.5 years to sell the first billion rides on Uber. And Uber's competitor, Didi Chuxing in China, it took them a little under 11 months to sell the first billion rides there. So what that means that in the future, very likely, we'll have companies that come out of the woodwork and suddenly they have 10 million customers or 100 million customers, and you didn't know about them because they didn't exist 2 weeks ago. That's the potential that we have with rapid scalability.
필립 코틀러는 성장하기 위한 가장 좋은 방법이 바로 성장하는 분야에 있는 것이라고 했습니다. 앞으로 산업이 많이 바뀔 것 같습니다. 미래 성장성이 가장 높고 부를 가장 많이 창출할 수 있는 분야는 어디라고 보십니까?
So when it comes to which company is going to excel in the future and which one will have the most power, I wrote a column a couple months back that I talked about which industries are going to produce the first trillionaires, super wealthy people. And I listed, I think, 14 different possible industries, and I'm sure I missed a lot of the ones along the way. But it looks to me like some of the big opportunities right now are for people to become super wealthy, or industry to become super wealthy, around technologies like cryptocurrencies, around technologies like asteroid mining or space-based tourism.
스마트폰이 우리 생활의 필수적인 기기가 되었습니다. 불과 10년 전과 비교해도 우리 모습은 크게 달라져 있습니다. 그렇다면 향후 10년 안에 일어나게 될 가장 중요한 기술적 변화는 무엇이라고 보십니까?
We have the potential for the smartphone to disappear altogether. Some of the best technology we have is invisible, that we don't even know it's there, that we just use the service. We don't have to have a device that manifests what that technology is all about. I think that's very important because in the future we'll probably be talking out loud and something will listen to us and it'll do what we want. This is referred to as chatbots today. It might be our clothing in the future. It might be something we have in our hand that we just chat with and we talk to it and it will give us answers. It will tell us what to do next. How we display the information is going to get real interesting. I actually think that there's some way of displaying things three-dimensionally in front of us that nobody else will be able to see, that it won't be intrusive or anything, that will give us additional capabilities. So, I mean, if we walk down the sidewalk, we see a person, and we can't remember who that person is, suddenly it tells us what their name is, who their family members are, and suddenly we seem like the smartest people in the world just because we have that information right in front of us. Now, having that displayed three-dimensionally in front of us without having some visible device there, I think that's going to be real important in the future. As a futurist, there are several techniques that we use for predicting the future. We've developed a course called Strategic Futuring that we use to teach people these techniques. And I'll just mention a few of them. One of them is that we're looking for peaks. And whether it's, we've heard a lot about peak oil, but things like peak hospital. When are we going to reach the peak number of hospitals in the world? When are we going to reach the peak number of cars or peak steel or any type of business you're in? You can look at when is it going to peak in this one area and then what happens after that. Now, as an example with peak steel, some of the predictions are that we're going to reach peak steel somewhere between 2024, 2028, somewhere in there. And that's when we develop synthetic materials that start to displace the need for the steel. Now, does that mean the steel industry declines, or does that mean the steel industry expands to take on many more of these synthetic variations of steel? That's very likely what will happen. But once we look at the peak, that's an interesting transition point, and then we can ask questions, well, how did we reach the peak and how long will it be till we get there? Another technique we use is called situational futuring. Situational futuring is where we take some scenario about the future and then we start asking questions. How is that going to affect a student? How is that going to affect a housewife? How is that going to affect a city worker or a farmer or an astronaut? And so once you start building out that body of information by creating all those micro little scenarios around it, then you create these situations in the future that kind of define in your mind what's going to take place. It's actually a very powerful technique that we use to do things. I use a simple brainstorming technique a lot, which I call the checkerboard, where I'll take a topic, like as an example, I did this with the future of drones. I was asking these different categories. If we added a robotic arm to a drone, what capabilities would that give us? How could we use the drones? And so then I put down 8 ideas for each one. And then I go to the next one. If we add a video projector to a drone, what capabilities would that give us? How could we use it? And so as you do all of these techniques and you have 8 different categories, then you put 8 different ideas in each category, then you have a total of 64 ideas. That's a full checkerboard then. And it's just a brainstorming technique that I use. I find it to be very helpful.
생활 동거용 로봇이 주목받고 있습니다. 사람에게 친밀감을 주고 외로운 사람과 친근하게 대화도 해주는 개인 로봇이죠. 이런 종류의 로봇이 앞으로 시장에서 흥행하고 대중화될 것이라 생각하시나요?
Now, people are social creatures by nature. We need to be around other people, and a lot of the technology that we're creating is actually isolating us. It's taking us away from other people, so we have less interaction than in the past. There's great power in the human touch. As an example, if you're dealing with elderly people or handicapped people, the power of the human touch is very important, that we need to be able to touch and feel each other, and that's not easily replaced with a robot. So if we go down the path and ask the question of will personal robots be as popular as television, they have that potential in the future.
View the humanoid version of a robot as a priority. I think they'll have a massive market at a point in time, but it may not be necessary at the beginning. As I said, a self-driving car is a robot. It doesn't look like a human, it doesn't act like a human. It will be friendly, but it's the function that the self-driving cars brings that are useful, even though not very human-like, a lot more than you see, a lot earlier than you see the ones that are, just acting and behaving like a human. An integral part of your life in your lifetime and mine. I mean, I cannot foresee a future in the next 25 years where you will not interact with a robot of some sort, on maybe weekly basis, or sometimes for some of us even on daily basis. Yeah.
The topic of the future education comes up all the time because we're going to have to re-educate people on an ongoing basis. Now, there's no one-size-fits-all formula for the future of education. Google bought a company called DeepMind, and they used DeepMind to play this Atari 2600 game called Breakout. And they gave it very few instructions other than to just maximize the score. So the DeepMind went in there, and after a half hour, it was still very lousy at playing the game. After 2 hours, it was much better, it was much more proficient because it was learning as it was going. And then after 4 hours, it figured out some superhuman way to shoot a ball around the backside in a way that the designer of the game never figured was even possible. And so then they applied DeepMind to 49 other Atari 2600 games, and in each case it had figured out how to master the game. Now, if we were to apply DeepMind or a form of artificial intelligence to a teacher bot, the new game would be how to teach us faster and faster and faster. I would think that would get real interesting because then the teacher bot then would suddenly learn all of our idiosyncrasies, all of our the weirdness, the topics that we're interested in. It would know what our personal reference points are, what our proclivities are. All of these things would get absorbed by this teacher bot. It would know what the best time is to teach us something. It'll know what skills we're proficient in, what it'll take to bring us up to speed on any new job that we're getting, and over time, it would learn to teach us faster and faster, maybe 5 times, maybe even 10 times faster than we can learn today. The way it looks to me is our current education system should start evolving around new forms of credentialing. And in the past, we had college degrees. I think we need to open it up to lots more types of certification programs. And we've been experimenting with an alternative credentialing system called Microdegrees based on 1,000 hours of learning. But I actually think it can be compressed down to something even smaller than that, a micro degree or something that might be based on 100 hours of learning, so that we have all these stepping stones, accomplishments that we can add to our resume, that add to our background, that will give future employers or future people that want to work with us a much more granular way of looking at our history. From the standpoint of a question that you should ask yourself is, how will people in the future view my business? How will they view my role that I have today? I think that becomes real important because I like to ask this question: if I was going to advise myself 5 years ago, what would I say to myself? What would I tell myself 5 years ago that I should be doing? We all are invested in our future self. We all envision ourselves being more influential, wealthier, more capable than in the past, and so we look at what we should be doing today to invest in our future self. And that's the same as how we invest in our future company, our role in society, our role in the world. How do we invest in ourselves to make that all happen? I think those become real critical questions.